Hello everyone and welcome to Say It with Symbols, Investigation 2, beginning on page 27. In this investigation we're going to work with combining expressions, okay? Investigations 2.1 and 2.2 will be combined on this recording, and your ACES questions will be 3 through 5, 17, and 21 through 28. So as we look at 2.1, again on page 27, it talks about walking together. And we're going to go back to adding expressions for a book we used previously. In Moving Straight Ahead, we had it where Leanne, Gilberto, and Elena entered a walkathon as a team, and it says this means that they each walk the same number of kilometers, and the walkathon organizers offer a prize to the three-person team that raises the most money. Well, even though they are a team, each one of them went out and raised different amounts of money. So Leanne had 16 sponsors, and each of them pledged $10, regardless of how far she walks. And then Gilberto, he only had 7 sponsors, but they're going to pay $2 per kilometer. And finally, Elena, she has 11 sponsors. They are going to pay her a flat rate of $5 plus an additional 50 cents per kilometer that she walks. So as we look at the problem down here, 2.1, part A, it says write equations to represent the money M that each student will raise for walking X number of kilometers. So for each one of these three, use the information up here in this table to be able to help you come up with an equation for each one of these individuals. And then what you're going to do for number 2 here is write an equation for the total amount of money the three-person team will raise. So I want one equation. You have 3 equations up here. I want one equation that shows us the total amount. Okay, so that's all there is to 2.1. As we move on to 2.2 here on page 29, we're going to be substituting expressions. Substituting, pay attention to that word. Tells us the manager of the Watertown Amusement Park uses data collected over the past several years to write equations that will help her make predictions about the daily operations of the park. So the daily concession stand profit in dollars, P for profit, depends on the number of visitors, V. The manager writes the equation below to model this relationship. So the profit equals $2.50 times V, the number of visitors, minus $500, which is going to be the expense. So we have income here, expense here. So she uses the equation below to predict the number of visitors, V, based on the probability of rain, R. So here's our probability of rain, and that's going to affect the number of visitors. If there is 0 probability of rain, 0 times 500 is 0, 600 minus 0 is 600, we would have 600 visitors, okay? If there's a 100% chance of rain, we're only going to have 100 visitors because you'll have 100% times 500 is going to be 500, so 600 minus 500 is 100. So we will range somewhere between 100 and 600 visitors depending upon the probability of rain. Well, once you find the V here, we need to substitute it in. Substituting expressions, we need to substitute the value of V in for profit. As we look at 2.2b here, I have your two equations up here. It asks us to write an equation you can use to predict the concession stand profit P based on the probability of rain R. So no longer is it saying number of visitors, it wants probability of rain to be able to tell us exactly what the profit is. So how would you substitute in the equations to make that happen where you could just have one equation? And then use that equation to predict the profit when the probability of rain is 25%, and you won't put it in as a percent. When you are using percents and multiplying and adding with them, you are going to use a decimal. So 0.25, change the percent to 0.25 when you go to sub it in to this equation you come up with up here. So that's it for 2.2, practice substituting in an equation. Also, if you want some extra credit, we have this did you know in your book on page 30. It says the calculation of the quarterback rating in the National Football League uses a series of equations, and it gives you different equations down here, and then it shows you the overall rating and how they calculate that. The CR, you sub all of that in here for CR, all of this in for YR, all of this in for TR, and all of this in for IR. If you want some extra credit, go to this link down here and calculate what the quarterback rating should be. Show me your work, and then we'll see how that compares to the actual quarterback rating the quarterbacks had in this past season. So if you want some extra credit, go play around with that a little bit. Just a reminder, ACES for 2.1 and 2.2 is 3 through 5, 17, and 21 through 28. Good luck, and look forward to your questions and comments in class.